Give me a few minutes of your attention. What we're about to talk about really matters. This is something that most men don't hear anymore. And the ones who do usually hear it too late. So let's talk about calm. You know, there's something that the modern world quietly fears, and it isn't loud men, and it isn't aggressive men, it isn't angry men. It fears calm men. That man who doesn't rush, doesn't react, doesn't posture himself in such a way that he wants everybody to see he's puffed up, he's getting aggressive. So that man who doesn't react, doesn't posture, he doesn't need to prove anything. That's a dangerous man. Not because he's violent, it's because he's hard to control. I spent a lifetime around sales teams, construction crews, men who felt like they wanted to dominate certain situations, whether that's negotiation or sales calls. A lot of conflict, a lot of uncertainty situations, right? And these were environments where mistakes cost real money. So there was a lot at stake, especially if you were on the losing side. And I can tell you this from experience, the calmest man in the room almost always has the advantage. Today, I want to explain why. Hey, I appreciate you being here. Welcome back to Papa Todd. With this channel, I kind of try to put in some nuggets of wisdom here and there that I've learned throughout my life for my kids and grandkids. And I hope you get something out of it too. Like and subscribe. And we'll get on to talking a little bit more about why calm is not weakness. Some people really confuse calm with that. They almost think you're passive, right? It's all passivity, or passive aggressive. They kind of assume that a quiet man is somehow lacking in confidence, right? And that really couldn't be further from the truth. Because real calm comes from preparation, from putting a plan together, and using that experience to build a perfect plan, a better plan, so to speak. So it comes from knowing what's about to come, right? What you might be facing. And from knowing that you can handle what's about to come. The insecure man who may not have that experience somehow needs some level of noise to respond and react. They're very reactionary. They're very noisy when it comes to that, and they need some sort of validation. They need others to validate why they can respond in such a way. And calm men don't. Like I said, I've been in situations many times in my life where business needed to be conducted. And whether that was sales guys or, project managers in construction or, owners who were pretty upset about something, right? You're in a situation where, someone's trying to dominate the conversation, right? Talking over people, pushing and posturing. That's usually the person who has the most to lose, right? And an insecure man has a lot to lose if he's class A or type A personality, alpha. He thinks that pressure is power. So if you ever think and have a thought that pressure is power, I can assure you, you're probably lacking somewhere else that you need to focus on and make up for that. Because the man who actually closes the deals and negotiates the right settlements and gets things done correctly and keeps things on track, they listened first. They paused to be sure that the plan they were putting into their head was correct, the response was correct. They let silence work for them as well. And that's a key, that's a crucial thing, to be able to let silence work for you. So when a customer kind of pushed back and the calm man didn't flinch, he didn't get defensive, he didn't rush to fill the space of silence, he stayed steady. And that steadiness shifted the entire room. When everyone would expect for things to come off the rails or voices to be raised, instead that response was nice and calm. It shifted the entire direction. So people trust the man who doesn't need to win every second. Not that you have to give up and concede. You just have to stay calm, recognize things for what they are. And if you're on the losing side, at no fault of your own sometimes, you have to concede calmly and build a plan out of that situation. And that calm for you really kind of creates a state of readiness, right? You need to go into it with a state of readiness to keep your calm, in other words. A calm man will see a lot more in what's going on. And when you're emotional, you're going to miss those details, right? You need to be able to pick up on those. When you're reactive, you rush right past key information. So you can't be reactive. Give yourself time, be calm. That calm will slow that perception down, but it also slows down your response, which is always much better in a heated situation, right? It allows you to read the room. It allows you to look at the tone, the body language that's going on. There's very subtle changes that could be happening. It's really important to have your eye on those. It's important to know what those types of body languages mean. It's important to know how to mirror some of those things that you see. So this applies to business, but it also applies to relationships, really any kind of conflict, right? And in my last video, I was out doing some tracking, and believe it or not, it even applies to tracking. In other words, awareness lives inside of calm. To be a good tracker, you got to be calm. You got to take in the full surrounding of all the things that are going on and maximize your senses, right? Total sensory awareness creates a level of calm. And you getting riled up, you're going to lose that total sensory awareness. So why does the world really push men away from being calm? I mean, I see this everywhere. If you're not looking for it, start looking for it and you'll start to see it, because a modern world really thrives on reaction, right? They want outrage. They want just in your face, right? It gets clicks, right? It gets all this stuff. They also want speed. They want you to be able to do things quickly, super efficient and double down, multitask, right? Lots and lots of noise. They love noise for some reason, this modern world does. And emotion. They thrive on emotion. It's like something you're addicted to. You need to get rid of that, because a calm man does not feed that system. That's why he's dangerous. He doesn't panic on command. He doesn't fall into that rut. He doesn't argue on cue. He doesn't buy into the manufactured urgencies that everyone seems to create every day, seems like, way more than it used to be. And that makes him hard to manipulate. The world doesn't like that. They say systems don't fear strong men. They fear men who can't be rushed. So it's not about, oh, I'm strong, I'm looking strong. But the man who refuses to be rushed, takes his time to conclude what's going on in the world around him, what's affecting him, very dangerous man, according to the world. Because calm men kind of set the tone. When something goes wrong and people don't know where to look, they definitely, want to be looking towards that loud person because he's making the most noise, right? But when things are really bad, they don't look for that loud guy. They look for a very calm presence. That's what they look for. That's what they want. That's whose decisions get deferred to. And that's who others just naturally follow, whether they think they're following or not. A calm man doesn't dominate. He actually stabilizes. And unfortunately, the world we live in today, stability is rare. Again, trying to get clicks, trying to get attention. When you bring calm to chaos, you become the center of gravity. Ultimately, building calm starts with a choice. Calm isn't personality, it's training. It's discipline, preparation, and control. Now, all those words are thrown around a lot, right? It's not motivation, though. It's not. Motivation helps. But you build things by doing the hard things, not just first, but consistently. Face those hard things first and be very consistent about facing it. And always resist the urge to just react. Always put a pause button when you start to feel that building up inside you where you just want to react to something that really bothers you. Just push pause for a second. Pull yourself back and think through it. Know what you really heard. Look deeper. Be still for just a second, because by choosing that stillness when others panic, that's when you earn being calm. And that calmness will help you see everything for what it is and allow you to make the best call, the best response. Hopefully you've prepared yourself competently, right? So that you can respond to those types of things, especially if you know you're heading into it, right? Well, if this if this kind of way of thinking, resonates with you, I'd invite you to stick around to the channel, because this channel is about building clarity, discipline, presence, and we're just doing it one step at a time, little by little. No big hurry, we'll get there. I appreciate you being here. I want you to know there's more coming. Again, please like and subscribe if you like what you heard today, and I look forward to seeing you again.